Hello, and thank you for joining me for stories to help put you to sleep. Karma Police. Damn it, boy. Now you're going to have 7 years bad luck. That's what my grandpa told me when I was 5 years old and accidentally broke the old mirror that hung in the hallway of his house while I was pretending to sword fight with a broom. I never knew what bad luck, or luck in general, was all about at that point in my life. I only knew that bad luck must mean getting a whooping with a peach tree branch. I never got to really ask him much about it because Grandpa was dead the next morning, found dead in his bed by my dad. They said he passed peacefully in his sleep. As I grew older, I heard more and more about luck, both good and bad. Some called it auras, some called it fate, but the one that seemed to feel right was karma. Doing good things could bring you good karma. Doing bad things brought bad karma. And like luck, I felt that karma could be influenced by the same actions, and I saw enough of it happen to believe it. In high school, I once saw our football coach walk under a ladder that was being used by painters in the gym. The next day, Coach Clark fell off the top of the bleachers at the football field and broke his neck. While I was in college, I dated a really cute girl named Amber. During a heavy thunderstorm one day, she opened her umbrella inside the student center before going out into the rain. On her way home later that evening, she lost control of her car and sailed right over an embankment. The authorities said that she most likely died on impact and felt no pain when the car caught fire and burned. During her funeral, I watched a woman absent-mindedly step on someone's grave. I saw in the next day's newspaper that she had been fatally shot later that evening in an attempted robbery at her home. I always try to teach my friends and family about bad karma, hoping they would be able to avoid such fates. But some people just can't help but to tempt fate. Just a few hours ago, my wife had told me about one of those silly bad luck if you delete chainmails that she had trashed. I just have to shake my head and wonder why people just don't believe in karma. Right now, she is upstairs taking a nap after I had slipped a couple of crushed Ambien into her coffee, while I am downstairs setting fire to the drapes with a lit candle and watching the fire spread to the carpet. As I walk out the door to my car, I wonder just how many times I will have to do this before people start to believe in bad karma. Wax Dolls by Beretta Vo. I stared hatefully at my mother's old home, at the place where my nightmares began. Even before her mysterious and sudden passing, she's always been awfully cryptic, refusing to even divulge information about my missing father. But she made one thing clear throughout her life, and that was her near fanatical obsession with those God-forsaken wax figures. Before you ask, yes, I do call it the House of Wax. And no, she doesn't like it one bit. For as long as I can remember, that house has been filled with handcrafted figures of our family members, commissions, and exhibition pieces. Pale, slender flesh draped in satin, nylon hair tied in strings of gold and gems, imitations of blood vessels and fine wrinkles carved into a lifeless, yet lifelike form. Dark gemstone eyes followed me to every corner of the house, and phantom footsteps creaked up and down the halls at night. Sometimes I hear whispered answers to my own lonely conversation, or find footprints on the dusty wooden floor, much larger than my own. So you see, that's why I hated that house, and that's why I had to get rid of it. Sending the wax dolls to the scrapyard and demolishing the rickety wooden planks wasn't good enough for me. I wanted to watch its destruction. I hauled gallons of gasoline from a nearby gas station and flooded the house with them. It felt cleansing to douse those wax abominations as I walked through the house, splashing holy water on my mother's dark creations. I wanted to burn away this gloomy house, memories of her peculiarities, and those damned, unmoving, unblinking eyes. As the whole house dripped with gasoline, I stood in the center of the living room, surrounded by empty canisters. I had to start the fire from here so it would burn thoroughly. I flicked on the lighter, feeling the heat flicker and dance, then threw it at the looming statue of my grandmother. Orange flames burst from its feet and swallowed the velvet dress it wore, fire licking the fabric, black and climbing, stretching, twisting onto other figures. Furious red light clawed at my childhood nightmares as I watched, gleeful with vengeance. Their dark eyes, blushed cheeks, and pale limbs distorting and shrinking into piles of unrecognizable colors, wax collapsing into its original pathetic state. Satisfied, I turned to leave before the heat got unbearable, but a strange sensation on my arm made me stop and look. To my utter horror, I was beginning to melt as well. Mommy's Special Tea by Random Claude. My family are all tea drinkers. Grandma likes the kind that smells nice with lots of honey. Daddy likes the kind that smells terrible and I'm not supposed to have because it'll keep me up all night. And Mommy likes her special homemade tea. No one else in the family likes that tea. Daddy and Grandma refused to let me try it. I still wanted to see what the fuss was about, even though I don't like most tea. Mommy's tea is her favorite thing. She drinks a cup of it in the morning and again in the evening. Once I woke up and found her drinking it a whole lot in the middle of the night. She gets weird without her tea. Scary. Her tea is bright reddish orange, but smells so strongly like flowers that it almost hurts. The neighbors like coming over to have some of the tea. Sometimes they come every single day. Mommy gets money from them each time. She says that it's good to get extra money for us, even if it's ill-gotten. She tells the neighbors that she makes the tea from things in the garden. Then she tells me to go play in the garden while the grown-ups talk about grown-up things. I used to like playing in the garden, but it got boring when my friends disappeared. I wondered what was really in Mommy's tea. I knew it was from the garden, but I was never allowed to eat anything I found there. A little while ago, I decided to sneak into the tea room, which was where Mommy made the tea, and where I wasn't ever supposed to go. I still went in, though, because not knowing was driving me crazier and crazier. I snuck into the room at just past midnight. When I opened the creaky door, I certainly didn't expect to see what I saw. The room was dark, lined with shelves, and had a big table in the middle. All over the table and the shelves were big old books and small old jars, and inside the jars were little dolls. At least I thought they were dolls. I was scared, but looked closer anyway. They weren't dolls. The one I looked at was green and had big black buggy eyes. It had tiny claws and hair that looked like petals from a flower in the garden. I thought it was dead because of how curled up it was, but then it looked up at me. It opened its mouth and banged on the glass. One of its legs was missing. It looked kind of like one of my little friends I used to have. I wanted to free it. I was too scared for my hands to move. Instead, I snuck away. Mommy had people over again. As I crept back to my room, I heard her bragging about her secret ingredient coming from nature. Nothing was more natural than my little friends. I decided I'd never drink tea again after that. I love scary stories by Tallowface. I love scary stories. They're my favorite thing in life. I just go wild for any sort of creepypasta I can get my hands on. Of course, I never imagined I would ever have to use any of the lessons found within them. Until one freezing winter day, when my mother went to visit my uncle the next town over, telling me she'd come back that night. Around 4 p.m., I heard a knock on the door. Not expecting anyone, I asked who it was. A voice responded, "Why, Tim, it's your mother." But the voice sounded off. Luckily, I was prepared. I said, "Are you sure?" And the voice responded that it was, but I could tell it wasn't my mother. It was something else, something inhuman. It was a good plot. I was alone. Our nearest neighbors were out of town and couldn't interfere. But it had made a crucial mistake. It had come home too early. I asked the voice to prove what it was saying, to prove that it was my mother, and it only replied, "Tim, come on, it's me. I think those stories are starting to get to your head." It sounded fake and malevolent, biding its time to come in and kill me. I knew I couldn't let it in. I barricaded the door, and no matter how much the voice begged, cajoled, screamed, or wept, I refused to let it in my house. It wasn't going to get me. Eventually, after about an hour, it began banging on the door as hard as it could, but quieted after a little while. Proud of myself for holding off the demon, I went to take a nap. And there I slept until my reverie was broken by police bursting through the door in the middle of the night, asking me why I barricaded the door, why I had ignored the screams. How could I have not noticed my mother's body on the front porch, frozen to death? We Were Friends by Parker Thor 789. God, you're beautiful. I've always thought so, and I've always told you. You were the world to me, special and perfect in every way. Why didn't you believe me? Why didn't you love me? I still love you. I was there for you since either of us could remember. But you chose him. He wasn't faithful. He wasn't kind. But you made your decision, and now you're here. One thing led to another, and now all I have to talk to is an apparition. I brought you back, and yet you're still trying to choose him. He only wanted you because of your beauty. Well, beauty is only skin deep, and that only works if you're still alive. You still chase after him on your shambled and gaunt legs, while the bones break under the pressure and pierce your flesh. So you drag yourself towards him, bones creaking with every move. You were so smitten when he said he loved your eyes. So what did you do now? You took them out and gave them to him. He threw them aside and ran, just like he did with your love, when you were still here. Would I have done that? Now not only is your jaw slack and hanging, and your skin dripping off your very foundation, but black holes now take residence in your skull. I still haven't left you. I'm right here. Why the fuck don't you want me? You scream after him, your voice sounding incoherent and frantic, like nails on a chalkboard. My favorite. Look at you, crying for him while the only man who ever loved you is standing right in front of you. But fine. You want him? Because he's beautiful. Because he's strong. Because he's not me. I'll get him. I should have never brought you back. So I'm returning you to the ground that I dug you out from. And he is going in with you. No. I'm not killing him and letting you two spend eternity together. That would be too good. And I've done enough for you. I'm putting him in alive. So you can sit and watch his body decay, just like you sat and watched my heart decay. Like I said, beauty is only skin deep. And when his starts to fall off, let's see if you still want him then. The Ocean Calls at Night by spookybookiwrite. So, I'm a solo sailor. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a small community of people who sail boats on their own, solo. And yeah, that's basically the gist of it. I know a few others who do this, and we communicate regularly when we're in port. There's some great YouTubers who do it and document their journeys, if you're interested. I'm fairly new to the hobby, and recently I just completed my longest sail yet. I did the 2-week sail from San Fran to Hawaii. It's kind of a milestone for people of the hobby. I had been prepping for months for this trip, and finally conditions were ideal, so I did it. For the most part, everything was smooth sailing. No storms or sea tornadoes, nothing like that. However, there is something disturbing about the sea at night. If you've never been out on the ocean, it's hard to describe. It's like a valley of rolling hills that spreads forever in every direction, all around you. Your brain has a hard time comprehending the vast, endless amount of water before you. and to think about how far it extends downward. That's just downright terrifying. So there I am, fresh face, all excited to get my adventure underway. The first few days are the usual. Hang out on deck. I try to maintain at least 15 knots to keep on track with my planned course schedule. Somehow, when you're out there, time always seems to slow down. Days feel twice as long, and nights twice as long as that. To make matters worse, the ocean knows you aren't supposed to be out there. And I don't mean I'm breaking any type of law. I mean when you're out there, you're defying the natural order. The ocean knows you're a human, and humans don't swim this far out, and definitely not alone. The sea, being aware of the disturbance, starts to call to you in the night. I try to stay below deck, but the low howl becomes too much sometimes and draws me out. You look out at that single ray of moonlight, illuminating the ever-expanding, unclaimed territory before you. And it takes every ounce of willpower not to walk clean off the deck and go join it in its eternal blackness. The ocean knows you. The ocean calls to you. From one sailor to another, before you go out on your own, make sure you have the mental fortitude to resist that call. Hawthorne House Haunt. Important information. By MortifyMore. This is a confirmation email for your purchase. Your confirmation number is 5317 5317 5317. Thank you for your purchase of the weekend Hawthorne House Haunt, inside Kentucky's least known haunted house. Nestled in lovely Boone County, you'll enjoy the Victorian architecture, witness the ghostly unexplainable, and solve the mystery of Lady Hawthorne's murder. We hope you enjoy your stay in this beautiful building, home to mysterious and often playful visitors from the Vale. As per your purchase package, meals will be served by the welcoming and especially diligent Mrs. Mears, who will arrive at 5 a.m., 11 p.m., and 5 p.m. sharp to ensure the wonderful experience of authentic Kentucky dining. In the backyard is the mystifying Hawthorne maze, where residents hear laughing children and lose their sense of direction in this 500-square-foot hedge maze. The marbled twin princes stand tall, guarding the famous fountain, where the Lady Hawthorne's ghost is often seen, and the cherry blossom garden, whose trees sway without the chilling wind. Before you arrive at Hawthorne House, we'd like to outline a few rules to keep you safe and the house immaculate for future visitors. Please adhere to these rules, lest you upset the horrible Hawthorne House. Number 1. Meals will be served the hour after Mrs. Mears arrives in the dining hall. Please do not disturb Mrs. Mears while she is cooking. Number 2. Do not disturb Mrs. Mears as she arrives or departs. She is very mindful of the time and her schedule. Number 3. Feel free to wander Hawthorne House during the night, but do not explore the backyard after sundown. Observing through the window is fine. Number 4. Sometimes the second prince appears missing at night. This is an optical illusion created by the moon. Please adhere to rule number 3. Number 5. Hawthorne House's staff team places seasonal information signs at select locations throughout the house. Please do not move them. We will move them as needed, even during your stay. Try not to read them. Number 6. It is extremely important that you. Number 7. In the situation where rule number 6 is broken, please stay in your bedrooms with the doors locked. Within a few hours, things will return to normal. Number 8. Reading for prolonged periods of time allows it to walk behind you unnoticed. Number 9. Sometimes hoarse breathing is heard in the left corridor bathroom. This is actually a wasp infestation issue. Please leave the room, if inside, and use the right corridor's bathroom for the remainder of the day. The wasps leave after nightfall. Number 10. If you suffer from vertigo, do not participate in the hedge maze. Number 11. If you wake up at night inside the hedge maze, go back to sleep. Number 12. Remember, nobody outside of your group should be inside the hedge maze. Do not acknowledge them. Once again, thank you for your weekend Hawthorne House Haunt purchase. We can't wait for you to explore this incredible and forlorn estate. Keep your eyes and mind open, and happy hunting.